Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the training this morning. I'm going to get right into the training this morning, and I want to, this morning, I just want to take the time to just tell my story. And the reason I tell the story is first and foremost for you to get the hope that anything is possible. How did I end up in the position I am in today? It's a very unique story, and I feel that it's time that I share it with you today. And then at the end of that, I want to talk about eFund Insurance core values. Believe it or not, we do have core values that were put into place when the company started back in October 2010. I live my life at work according to these core values and outside of work. So I want to touch on that, but I want to get right into it. Many of you may know or don't know what you're going to learn. My name's David Hanna, and I was born in Mount Clemens, Michigan. Come from a family of 10 kids. My parents had 5 boys and 5 girls, and they had 10 kids within a period of 11 years. So today, as of today, they have about 35 grandkids. My mom and dad are still married. My dad, he was number 2 in the on the North Star platform last week, selling over 10 policies for over $9,000 in premium. He retired from DuPont Paint Company. He was an accountant there, so he had a good career. But I was raised in a very Christian home. My parents tried their best to hold us accountable to what was written in the Bible. So from there, I was very good in sports, one of the top athletes coming out of Macomb County at the time I graduated high school in 1996. And when I graduated from high school in 1996, I was all-state in football, all-state in basketball. I had a lot of Division I scholarship offers, but I thought I could play in the Big Ten. My first love is basketball, but when I didn't get those scholarship offers because of a lot of different changes with coaches, and it just didn't happen for me. I got some scholarship offers to play football, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan University. I chose to go to Central Michigan University because I thought I had the best chance of playing. So when I went up there, to Central Michigan University as a wide receiver. I was slower than everybody on the team. It became very plain and obvious to me that my coach he inflated my 40 time, and that was able to give me a full scholarship. So I had no choice but to work hard and give it everything I had to get a chance to be on the field. It seemed like my shoes were bigger, I was slower, everybody was faster, they ran faster than me, they moved faster than me. So I had no choice but to outwork everybody. So I learned that from my dad, though he was an extremely hard worker when I was growing up. And so I learned he was a very good example of what it means to work hard. And anytime we worked around the house, which we did a lot of work because it was 10 kids, we worked extremely hard. So he was a good example in that. And so I knew that if I worked hard, it would give me an opportunity. It would give me a chance to start on a football team at the Division I level. So my first year, I didn't play at all. The second year, I went home. First year, after the first year, I went home, bought me some strength shoes. Those are the shoes that make you walk on your tippy toes. And I worked out every single day. I sacrificed partying, hanging out, all those things, and kept working out, working out. I came back that next year, and I was in the rotation, lettered as a true freshman, now redshirt freshman, sorry. And then I came back the next year and I was challenging for a starting position. That was my sophomore year. And I was very determined because I put so much work into this that I started to strain muscles in my legs because I was working so hard throughout practice. And I didn't sit down. I kept playing through the pain. And eventually I tore my quadricep muscle in half, literally like it cut in half in my leg, and so the muscle rolled up in my leg from the bottom, rolled up in my leg from the top, and bam, that year was over. And they told me that you probably won't play again. They tried to give me a medical red shirt. I mean, I was still go to school for free, but I couldn't play football. But I wasn't buying that, so I started to rehabilitate my quadricep and worked as hard as I've ever worked. It was the most painful experience. I did that for about a year, and I got back on the football field. But when I got back on the football field, I wasn't as fast as I was before. I couldn't run 4.40s. I was running like 4.640s now, if I'm lucky. And so I became a football player that had to run across the middle of the field and get hit by big people, then a football player that could run down the sideline. So I had to learn every position to get on the field. When I came back the next year, I started my last 2 years. And in my senior year, I was captain of the team because Coach Mike DeBorg from the University of Michigan, he wanted all the seniors to be captains for the year. So that was my football career. But I learned from those experiences that anything is possible if you work hard and you apply yourself and you give yourself. And many of you are on this call have experienced that personally. Anything is possible if you believe. So I used to say certain poems to myself when I was in college that I learned to keep me on the straight and narrow. One was excuses are tools of the incompetent. They're used to build bridges to nowhere. Those who use them become monuments to nothing. So believe it or not, I used to be full of excuses. So every time an excuse came up, that poem used to come into my head. I used to say it to myself over and over again, this positive self-talk. And another poem I used to say to myself that somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe he couldn't, but he'd be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled down to trace a grin on his face. If he worried, he hit it, and he started to tackle the things that couldn't be done, and he did it. And so I used to say that poem to myself all the time. People was like, you couldn't come back from that injury. It's impossible for you to do this. It's not going to work out. And so I used to say those two poems to myself all the time to drive out negative energy, to drive out negative thoughts. And so those are that's the baseline, that's the foundation of my sales career, is what I learned playing sports, the adversity I faced, playing football, growing up as a kid, going out there in the snow, playing basketball till my hands couldn't feel my hands anymore. I mean, I love sports. So when I got to college, though, I didn't know what I was going to major in. After I got injured, I see that the NFL was becoming a smaller and smaller spec or dream. You know, you really need a guy of my caliber had to stay healthy through college to have a good shot to go to the pro. So I went to the NFL Combine, and I made a decision. If I couldn't get signed on the NFL team, I wasn't going to play in the CFL. I went to the NFL Combine after my senior year, but I majored in English. The reason I majored in English in college is not because I liked it. I actually hate it. I'm very good at math. But I majored in English in college because I needed to learn how to read and write. I just felt like playing sports, and I didn't spend a lot of time reading and writing, okay? I spent a lot of time playing sports, so I majored in it. It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And I got a degree, a bachelor's of science major in English, but I had no intention of teaching. I did that because I wanted to learn how to read or write. So I looked at teaching, but my wife said, it made it clear to me that if you become a teacher, I don't think this marriage is going to work because I want a husband to make more money than that. So I had two choices. Either I was going to get into sales or I was going to law school. I didn't like school that much. I took the LSAT and I was preparing to go, but then I made the decision I was going to enter into sales and commission only sales at that, because I just believe that if I'm commission only, I can get paid what I'm worth, and I have a lot more freedom to be me and be myself and develop and grow, and I can bring in more money for my family and also for the company. So I got into the mortgage business. Had a great career there. Started off with a company. I remember my first job interview ever, and I never been on an interview before. And the guy was like, why should I hire you? That was his question. I looked him in the eye, and all I knew, I was just confident, and I knew I could do anything. I said, I'm gonna be the best salesperson you got. And he looked at me. He said, "Show me." And the interview was over. And so he took me out, set me in the seat, and put me on the phone. I started dialing these old leads, and until like wee hours in the morning. But I finally got a sale. But prior to that, right out of college, my wife, she was an entrepreneur. She owned a Dunkin' Donuts on Long Lake in Illinois in Troy. She owned another one on Woodward and Bloomfield Hills. So my wife is from India. She came to America when she was 10 years old. So her and her mother, they're entrepreneurs, and so she put that entrepreneur spirit in me. And then she also owned the Blippy Subs and Salads franchise that was in Sterling Heights on 19 Mile Water Mounds. It's at the subway there now. So she put that entrepreneur spirit in me, and she kept pushing me to be an entrepreneur, push me to be an entrepreneur and not get a job and work for someone. But I also experienced working with a company called Quickstar, which was a division of Amway. So Amway is like multi-level marketing. So when I got out of college, a guy was coming through the Blimpie Subs and Salads line, because I used to work there as a manager before I got into the mortgage business, and his name was David, and he's presented me the idea of Quickstar. I was drawn to it, and I got involved with these guys named Orrin Brady and Chris Woodward. No, Chris Brady or Woodward. Bam. Team of Destiny was them. And I got involved with these guys, and they start introducing me to like motivational books, leadership books, and I was, because they were the leaders of that group, and I started reading the book. I was reading a book like one every 2 or 3 days, and I was just feeding myself with all this self-taught and knowledge and personality plus, and how to win friends and influence people, and the magic of thinking big, and all these books that these motivation leadership books that you read to like make you a positive person, right? And now I already had some self-talk in that, in the fact that I, used to say those poems to me when I was in college, but those books began to open my horizon. And in that business, it's completely like prospecting and cold calling. And you walk up to random people or random places and you just start having conversations and you try to get them involved into the business that you're doing. And sometimes, and I grew a team, but it just I didn't feel satisfied with that. I didn't see it as being long term. I was looking for something with a little bit more meat. So I did it. I'm always been a guy that it just thinks logically to me that, hey, if I'm gonna do something, before I make a decision for me or not, I'm gonna give it everything I have for a certain period of time. So I said, I was gonna do that 6 months. I did it for 6 months, built the team. I just couldn't make the money I needed to make, so I knew I had to move on. So I got into the mortgage business, and guy interviewed me. Why should I hire you? I'm gonna be the best you got. And then bam, it took off from there. I went in the seat, sat in the seat, and I became his best sales guy. So I started hanging out with guys who were making $500,000, $1 million a year when I was like 22, 21 years. They wanted to take me everywhere with me. I was a trophy showcase because I used to outsell everybody. So I began to pick these guys' minds and see how they live. And I began to learn that, oh, this is the kind of lifestyle I want to live, right? This is how I want to have it from being with these guys. And so worked with him for about a year and a half, and then I told him, I want what you have, and he wished me the best. And so I started my own mortgage branch. It was a net branch of Premier Mortgage Funding. Had a lot of success there. Was selling a lot of mortgages and also buying houses, fixing up, selling them. But then the market collapsed in 2008. 2008, 2009 area. And so then I was in a position where I literally had lost everything I worked so hard for because I wasn't prepared properly, had all my eggs in one basket. And so I had to start over again. I had to turn my BMW 7 Series back in. I had to turn my $500,000 house back in, and which was fine. It was good for me. I needed to go through that. But I made a decision at that point, I'm going to get into a business that's recession proof. If I'm going to do sales, I don't want to be in a position where I've sold my behind off and one day it's over, So I started looking at insurance. I said, okay. And then I started looking at the sector of insurance, home, auto, property, casualty, life. And then I said, well, I don't want to work with people who have jobs. And this was me writing this all down. I said, I want to work with people who get their income directly from the government. These were thoughts that just was coming into my head. And so then I found final expense life insurance. But prior to that, me and Vince, we started this company together. His name was Vincenzo Spampanati. I known him in the mortgage business. We had worked at a company called My Insurance Expert. We both got a license at the same time. We had a short stint with Andy Albright in National Agents Alliance. I didn't like his platform, what he was saying, what he was doing. Neither did Vince. So we started working at a company called My Insurance Expert. That's where I met Deanna Bavuso at, who still works here to this day, and we were selling health insurance, which was working great, but Obamacare came out and cut the commission. So when I was working there, that's when the idea came to me to sell final expense over the phone, and I started looking at another business model. So I'm backing up and going forward. But when the idea came to me, I went into the vice president of sales office at My Insurance Expert, and I asked him, his name was Brian Macias, he's a great guy. I said, why don't you guys sell final expense over the telephone? And he said, you can't build a $100 million company selling to those people. And that was the ammunition that I needed. And the poem came back into my head. Somebody said it couldn't be done. It couldn't. He without a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he'd be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So buckled down with the trace of grin on his face if you're worried he hit it. And he started to tackle the things that couldn't be done, and he did it. And that poem is true for anybody who believes, right? And so right from that moment, I went out, I told Vince, I'm like, hey, Vince, I got this great idea. I'm going to sell final expense life insurance over the telephone. My mind was made up. That model was going away from selling health insurance. It was great, but when Obamacare came out, it cut the commissions on the amount of money that the agents could make. So, bam, I transitioned. For Vince, being as creative as he is, when I told him my idea, he had another idea, but he quit the job, went and learned how to sell final expense, and one day he called me up and he said, hey, David, true story. He closed me. He said, hey, man, you ready to start this company selling final? Since we never talked about working together. We sat next to each other in the queue, but I never had any intentions of starting any company with Vince. But he took the initiative, and I bit the hook, bit the bait, and he closed me. So then I quit, and then we started eFund Insurance. And then when we first started, it was really interesting because I told him, I said, look, man, we're sales guys, and we don't have a lot of money. We both just came out of the mortgage business where we lost everything. I said, we need to work with somebody who can give us some leads, free leads. I said, we can't get no free leads. It's going to be a tough road because it's hard to buy leads and grow and sell and all at the same time. And so he went to the internet. That was his task. And he searched free leads and he found Bullseye Lead Program. Guess what? Tony Hakeem, who's the co-founder of North Star, and Ramiz Hakeem. This is back in 2010. And so we meet these two young whippersnappers, and they start sending us free leads. We were running appointments face-to-face, me and Vince, and we weren't closing the amount of sales because they couldn't deliver the amount of leads that we needed, plain and simple. So Vince, being as fired up as he was, said, man, we driving down there. And I said, okay. So we jumped in a car on a winter snowstorm. We was like driving 30 miles an hour. I kid you not, and drove down to Dayton. Now, let me back this up again a little bit. When I was working at my insurance agent, when the idea came to me to sell final expense over the telephone, I went on the internet and I found this guy named Daniel J. Roberts who was doing it in Winsfield, Missouri. He was the only guy in America selling final expense life insurance over the telephone successfully. So I watched this presentation that many of you have watched before you took this opportunity, but to get involved, I had to pay $5,000. But I knew that this dude had leads and I was a closer. I'm like, oh, he got leads. I'm a closer. I can do this. I can make that money back, no problem. So I was prepared to pay and sign up. But he had this guy named Tony Clark or Tim Clark. I know his last name was Clark. He was a sales rep to follow up on the lead. He calls me up and tries to sell me books about the Bible. Kid you not. And I was like, oh, hecky no. This is a bait and switch. This is a scam. And so I was like, I'm fine. I ain't trying to buy no Bible books. I wanted to sell some life insurance, man. It was that simple. And so, go forward. Now we meet these Tony and Ramiz in Dayton, Ohio. True, and this is an amazing story. So they start sending us these preset appointments. You're running out into the fields, going into Detroit, going to Saginaw, people's house getting shot out. We walking in as the house is getting shot out. I mean, we were experiencing some stuff trying to sell some insurance. I remember being one lady's house on the couch, and the dudes was just grimming me, looking all crazy. And I used to drive a black Audi at the time, and she was like, "Don't rob him. He with me." I said, "Oh no, this is over. I can't do this. I got kids at home. I ain't trying to go out like this." So I knew I had to make a change. I didn't know. I was trying to get into final expense telesales, didn't know how it was going to happen. I tried once, and the guy tried to sell me Bible books. So here he is, me, Tony Ramiz Hakeem in Dayton, Ohio. We drive down there in a winter snowstorm, 30 miles an hour, kid you not, and we walk into their office. This office, and like it looked like this regular residential building, but it was like a normal building. And we were like fuming. This guy promised us all these leads, and he couldn't give us enough leads. And then we walked into his office. I'm a nosy guy because I'm trying to check these guys out. So I'm looking all around, and I see a Christmas card hanging from the door from Daniel and Debbie Roberts in Winsfield, Missouri. Kid you not. And I'm like, how does he know Daniel and Debbie Roberts? This is the guy I watched the presentation on a few months back and tried to get involved with. And the guy tried to call me back and sell me Bible books. And I was like, how does he know these dudes? So we went in the office, seen his operation. Now, Ramiz, the story behind him, he started making leads in his mother's basement when he was like 15, 16 years old, literally. This guy, that's why North Star's platform, it is what it is, because Ramiz Hakeem and Tony Hakeem, they know how to make leads like nobody I've ever seen since I've been in sales. I'm just going to keep it real with you, okay? And so we seen their telemarketing center and all these people of transferring calls. And so we went into our meeting and Ramiz was like, okay, I'm going to give you guys more leads. We was like, okay, perfect. We had worked that out. We was about to leave, and I asked him, I said, how do you know Daniel Roberts? And I kid you not, you can see the look on somebody's face. He went like completely like dead stare, like, he didn't know what to say. And then he just said it. He was like, we make all their live transfer leads. And I was like, oh my goodness, the guy I watched a few months prior, I was going to pay $5,000 to, who's trying to sell me Bible books. Now I'm in the office of the guy who makes his leads. When it's meant to be, it is going to be. I was like, so me and Vinny just switched lanes here, switched gears, and we started selling those boys that we was the best salespeople to walk the planet Earth, which we knew we were. We just had that confidence. And it's all about confidence when you're selling. You just got to believe till you can't believe no more. That's just what it boils down to. You have a choice in every call. Either you can choose to believe you're going to close it, or you can believe you ain't going to close it. And I just choose to believe I'm closing everybody. And even though I don't close everybody, that feels much better than not thinking I'm going to close anybody. I mean, this is logical stuff to me. Like, I'm just going to believe I'm going to close everybody. And the ones I get, I never seen them coming. The ones I don't get, I thought I had them. So, hey, everyone's in this together. So, when we made a decision at that point, he was going to start sending us, and I'm going a little long this morning, but I got to finish this. He was going to start sending us pre-qualified live transfer leads. And what he made a decision to do is he was going to send us the overflow leads from Daniel Roberts. So because we didn't have money to pay 35, 45 bucks a pop. But he was convinced, Ramirez Hakeem, he's retired now, so he made a good decision. He's only 30-something years old. He was convinced that we could sell this stuff. So he started pushing us overflow leads, and we started selling these policies, okay? And we started killing it. We started within 6 months, 6 weeks, we were closing 1 out of every 2 people we spoke to. I mean, the first week was tough. Vince did it by himself. He took 45 leads, didn't close no sales. He told me it's not possible. I went to that poem again, and then he bit the hook, and we both started putting the systems and scripts that you're seeing today. That was all done within like a 6-week period of time. We start putting all this stuff together. Right now, all the objections on the board, writing down solutions to the objections, putting this information into the script. And so when the customer said it, we knew exactly where we were going. It was so strategic. Like, sales is strategic. It's not kind of like Gangnam style, going from the hip type of deal, wild, wild west. No, it's very strategic. So we went through that curve, and before you know it, there was no objection. Every objection we had heard, we had a solution for, and we knew how to implement it before it even came out. So at the end of the sale, what was happening is the customers either buying from us or they were hanging up on us. And it had everything to do with the whole sales process, not the close. The close was the easiest part of the whole deal, right? So we mastered the sale. And then Deanna Babuso, she seen what we were doing, and I used to work with Deanna a lot at my insurance expert. Then she came over. She was the first person we hired, and my insurance expert was going out of business. All their top sales reps, they wanted to get rid of them because they were switching from selling health insurance to term life insurance. And so, bam, they all came over to my company. I've never worked with top sales reps like that ever. They were the top sales rep that my insurance expert had produced. They spent a lot of money. Guys like Brent Niblo, Chris Medale, Sam Riley, Marie Bedale, Steve Ziarko, Jason Rudd. I mean, these people are very successful in life today. I mean, they were great salespeople. Their coaches were dependable, and they were hungry, and they were just all in. So it was like the perfect storm. And me and Vince trained them, worked with them, And my dad was a part of that. Bernice Rubens, who's still with me today, she came over, and I started calling old salespeople. And then Christina came, and then Tamiko came. These are people you see. So they were a part of this thing, getting it going when I was not where I'm at today, but we were building this thing. And we became a multi-million-dollar organization overnight. Well, at that point, Daniel Roberts and Ramirez let him know what we were doing. He drove down to Detroit, seen our call center, drove back to Dayton. He bought out Ramirez and Tony Hakeem's family, moved them to Missouri. And then Ramirez told him, hey, well, I'm coming, but you got to bring David and Vince with me. And so he didn't want to do it, but he brought us along. My good friend Ramirez Hakeem and Tony Hakeem, they said, David and Vince got to come. They money makers. They know, I mean, they know how to do this. And so the rest is history. We got contracted with Pioneer American, and bam, here we are, 10 years later. Now, and they're thriving, I'm thriving. I mean, and so things have been amazing. I did run with Dan Roberts and Ramirez and Tony, those guys, from all the way up until October 2014. Then me and Vince went separate. It was very hard because we were generating leads, hiring people, training people, we were doing it all. And it took a lot of, diluted our focus. Eventually, me and Vince partnerships broke down. We separated. I love him to death. And I bought him out of eFund Insurance, and he moved to Texas. Now it was in October 2015. We ran hard for 5 years. We learned a lot, grew a lot. But then Ramirez called him after I bought him out in May of 2016. He formed up with North Star. He just came in. But Vince had a worth of knowledge. He had all the understanding. He understood everything. We and him worked hand in hand. We were master salespeople, right? And so he went into North Star with that knowledge, and he helped blow that company up, hands down, because he knew how to train people. He knew how to sell. He definitely knew how to close. And so they didn't really have that infrastructure at all until he came, and then that's when they blew up, okay? And so what he did for and when he came over there, he took over the outside sales, but eventually became over all the training, and then became a partner. But me and him still always been cool. I paid him all his money. It was a 3-year buyout. But he was talking to me. He's like, look, man, David, they have a solution that me and you are missing. I mean, where you can focus on what you do best, which is sell it. And so we talked about that in Barcelona, Spain. I made a decision I was going to come back and work with him at North Star. I came back in July 2018. We was in Barcelona in June or July 2017. July 2018, I came back, but he had just got diagnosed with cancer in April 2018. He passed May of 2019. So he opened the door for me to come back, work with North Star, gave me a portion of his commission. Me and Ramirez just couldn't come to an agreement. So Vinny got involved and helped orchestrate the deal that I'm still working with today, and it's been great. North Star has all the missing pieces. If you're a good salesperson, you want to make a 6-figure income and focus on just selling and then have the opportunity to scale your business, North Star Insurance Advisors have it figured out. Period. Okay. And I've been call center of the year 3 years now. This year we'll be call center of the year again. Another record breaking year. We'll sell over $4 million in premium. Last year we sold over 2.8. The year before, I was with North Star. I mean, so we've been doubling up I think it was 1.6. So we've been doubling up with them next year. The projection is the goal is to sell over 7 million. So the opportunity is there because they are masters at generating leads and masters at holding you accountable to the lead, but also masters at customer service. So the whole system, how all this has come together is really like a match made in heaven. It's something that's so beautiful. And that's why we're thriving and growing. But you can be a part of that too. There's nothing that eliminates you or pushes you out. I wanted to talk about our core values. They are on our website, but the core values is really the most important part of you developing as a salesperson. The eFund has core values. Attitude is everything. Integrity is paramount. Whatever it takes, be disciplined, point the finger inward, embrace change, build open and honest relationships through communication, and be humble. So the next training I do on Thursday, I'm going to expound more on those core values and how they have helped shape and form my sales career. But I want to leave this call by saying this too. You can do anything you set your mind to. I believe in you. When it's impossible, it becomes possible if you just keep pushing through, and no one can deny work ethic. See, talent comes a dime a dozen, but work ethic is few far in between. And those who have strong work ethic and dependable, consistent, reliable, coachable, they are the ones that become superstars. They are the ones that become superstars, no question about it. You can have a lot of talent, but if you don't have work ethic, then talent is useless. It's useless. And I was fortunate to have a lot of talent and learn a great work ethic from my parents, and I was able to combine the two. And that's why I've come from the bottom and keep rising to the top. And it can be the same for anybody. No silver spoon here, baby. Just so it's possible for you too. You can write 3 sales a day. You can write 10 sales a week. You can do 40 sales a month. You can do 300. You can do anything you can think. But you gotta believe that it's possible. And the only way you can get that mindset, you gotta drive out the negative and push into positive. And even though life sends you all types of situations, my favorite saying is, give me some lemons and I'm gonna make some lemonade, baby. And then I'm gonna put some sugar on it, and I'll put a little bit more sugar on it, and I'm gonna get it tasting real good. So anything is possible. I just thought I'd share our story with you. It's an amazing story, and it just goes to show you when you believe anything is possible, it becomes possible. And when it's meant to be, ain't nobody can stop it. Hey, that's all I got for you today. Happy selling to each and every single one of you. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.